When Hernando Courtright took over the Beverly Hills Hotel, it was coming out of bankruptcy, and he was the vice president of the Bank of America. He came in with a flair. As soon as he took over the hotel, he decided he was going to make a fuss out of it. And his dream was to remodel and rebuild the hotel. The hotel was built in 1912. When he took it over and when I worked there, it had 6 rooms without bath. And they rented, when I was there in 1948, 49, they rented for $6. That was what you paid to stay for a room without bath at the Beverly Hills Hotel. And you could check in and ask for it and you get it. His name was William Courtright. He changed his name to Hernando. First thing, they said, mi casa es su casa. He lit the fire in the fireplace that never went out, and he made a fuss. So comes now the time to expand. The war came along, he couldn't do it. So as soon as the war was over, he built the new wing, called the Crescent Terrace Wing. And this was really the first new hotel built in town since McCarty built his Beverly Wilshire in 28. Anyhow, he built this in about 1947 or 48. And he opened this new wing, and how did he get the financing? Well, you know, today getting financing to build a new building is hard. Well, it was very hard then, too. You couldn't get financing for a hotel. So what he did is he made leases with several people. He made 5-year leases with 5-year options. And the people, if their credit was good enough, he could take those leases to the bank and get his loan. And that's exactly what he did. He did it again when he built the addition to the Beverly Wilshire Hotel, and Conrad Hilton did it when he built the Beverly Wilshire Hotel. And Conrad Hilton did it when he built the Beverly Hilton. He leased out the top floors to interesting people. So anyhow, at the Beverly Hills Hotel, some of the people there, one was Mrs. Bishop, which was an old name here in Beverly Hills. Another was to Norma Shearer and her husband Marty Rouge. Another was to Spencer Tracy. And Spencer Tracy had the top floor, the 4th floor, and he was on the southwest corner. And across from them was a lady who shall be nameless because her family may be around. So this lady and her husband had come out from the Midwest where they'd made a lot of money, and they were living at the Beverly Hills Hotel on a lease next door to Mrs. Bishop, who was a very refined and dignified lady. But these people were, I'm sure, quite nice to their friends, but to the employees they weren't so nice, and I was one of the employees. And this lady was unhappy with the other tenants being around her. And if she was going to have friends over to play bridge or to have drinks or whatever, she didn't want Spencer Tracy's shoes out in front of his apartment, which was right across from hers, because his shoes were waiting for the bootblack to take them, but she didn't like that. So one time she took the shoes and she threw them over her balcony. On the 4th floor, they landed in the bushes. Well, Tracy asked me for the shoes, and I didn't know where they were. The bootblack didn't know where they were. Nobody knew where the darn shoes were. A couple of days later, the gardener found them. So I didn't know he thought they'd been thrown out. I remember them very well. They were English shoes. They didn't look so good when they brought them back. The bootblack did as best he could. They'd gotten water on them, of course, inside as well. But that was one story. Another time she was very upset that Norma Shearer was having a party. And Norma Shearer's balcony was underneath her balcony. And she hadn't been invited to the party. So she was very upset. So she accumulated newspapers. She was one of these people who does odd things, and this was another odd thing. She had a large amount of newspapers. She tore it up into a lot of confetti in small pieces. And as the party went on, every few minutes she'd go out and sprinkle some more of this newspaper that would blow down on the party. The problem was she couldn't be evicted because she paid her rent 5 years in advance. That was the money that he'd used to build that building. That was the first cash that he'd had. Everybody else, the credit was good. Mrs. Bishop certainly was good. And it was just a very interesting story. They had paid, because they'd probably been kicked out of other places before. We called her eccentric. One room service waiter, I do remember him coming back very upset. His entire outfit was wet. His face was all red. She'd complained the room service soup wasn't hot enough and taken the whole tureen and dumped it on it. And in those days you didn't sue, you just said, oh, that's my fault, I'm sorry, next time. And it was hot. The bottom of the hot soup was hot. In those days you didn't lock the linen closets because, people didn't do anything with the linen closets. But she decided she wasn't having her sheets changed twice a day or whatever she wanted. And so she went into the linen closet, raided it, and took all the sheets that she could get. And she hung them over her balcony. It looked like laundry was being done. Well, wouldn't let the maid into the room for 2 days, so that laundry stayed for 2 days on the fourth floor balcony.